All right, let's talk about the Fed, shall we? Well, it's happening again. President Trump is going scorched earth on the Federal Reserve and specifically on Jerome Powell, calling him always too late and wrong and saying his termination can't come fast enough. And honestly, can you blame him? The Fed has been dragging its feet while the European Central Bank has already cut rates 7 times. Meanwhile, Americans drowning in credit card debt, mortgage rates are still through the roof and they're going up again. And Jerome Powell is just like sitting there pretending that everything's fine. Now, Trump is making it clear Powell's days are numbered. The Federal Reserve isn't some neutral institution. Of course, it's a cartel of unelected bankers manipulating our economy and destroying the value of our dollar. You know, want to know why we got into the Great Depression in the 1930s? Look no further than the Federal Reserve. The cause of it, the impetus for it. And Powell has been their poster boy for years. So let's dig into this when someone who actually gets what's going on here and has been demanding the end of the Fed. Joining us now is Chris Rossini from the Ron Paul Institute to talk all about this. And by the way, check out his incredible work here called Set Money Free, What Every American Needs to Know About the Federal Reserve. And Ron Paul, of course, wrote the foreword there, and Chris joins us now. Chris, great to see you. And I know you and I are on the same page with ending the Fed, but maybe just at a high level, we can get into the pieces of why the Fed is awful for the United States of America. But what's happening here with Trump and Powell? What do you make of this back and forth?
Yes, well, you're 100% correct. Like you said earlier, it's a criminal organization, perhaps the biggest one in our country besides the military-industrial complex, but the Fed is what fuels the military-industrial complex. It should not exist, the Federal Reserve. 2 main reasons. Number one, they price fix interest rates, and nobody knows what the price of interest rates should be. It should be set by the marketplace between a lender of savings and a borrower of those savings that they want to invest. So a centralized Soviet-style board of federal governors picking what the interest rate should be should not exist. So that's number one. And number 2 is they counterfeit. And, there aren't too many federal crimes in the U.S. Constitution, but counterfeiting is one of them. And the government got around, okay, we're not going to counterfeit. What we're going to do is we're going to have this private bank, so-called private bank, counterfeit money instead. And that's why we have these trillion-dollar budgets. The value of our dollar is, compare it to when I was a kid, when my parents were a kid, and they got cheeseburgers for $0.25. That's because, nothing changed with the cheeseburger. It's the value of the dollar has dropped so far that it now costs, people can't afford McDonald's anymore. So those are the 2 main reasons, why the Fed should not exist.
Let me turn to Fed independence. You've reiterated that you intend to stay in office until the end of your term, and that certainly reassured many in financial markets. What are the levers the government or the legislature have to pressure the Fed? And should one worry about threats to the Fed's independence once you're gone?
So our independence is a matter of law. Congress has, in our statute, we're not removable except for cause. We serve very long terms, seemingly endless terms. So we're protected in the law. So, Congress could change that law, but I don't think there's any danger of that. Fed independence has pretty broad support across both political parties and in both sides of the Hill. So I think that's not a problem. There's a Supreme Court case people will have read, probably in today's Journal, at which the Supreme Court may decide whether independent agencies generally, whether their authorizing laws can contain a provision that prevents the president from firing members of a commission other than for cause. And that's a case that people are talking about a lot. I don't think that decision will apply to the Fed, but I don't know. But it's a situation that we're monitoring carefully. Generally speaking, Fed independence is very widely understood and supported in Washington, in Congress, where it really matters. And the point is, we can make our decisions, and we will only make our decisions based on our best thinking, based on our best analysis of the data about what what is the way to to achieve our dual mandate goals as we can to best serve the American people. That's the only thing we're ever going to do. We're never going to be influenced by any political pressure. People can say whatever they want. That's fine. That's not a problem. But we will do what we do strictly without consideration of political or any other extraneous factors.
But it wasn't just the president who got it wrong a year or so ago. I want to play for you what you said about inflation last year. Listen to this.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable. I don't anticipate that inflation is going to be a problem, but it is something that we're watching very carefully.
Was it a mistake, Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk? Did that contribute to the problems we're all seeing right now?
Well, look, I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I at the time didn't fully understand.
So President Trump says he's been way too lazy on this move to lower interest rates. Do you think, I think we've heard some rumblings that the Trump administration, or when he was candidate Trump and then President-elect Trump, that there was some discussion that they were going to end the Federal Reserve. Why do you think they haven't ended the Federal Reserve?
What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And I've had very good relationships with presidents.
Well, I know that you mentioned it in the book, and everybody knew about it at the time, that President George H.W. Bush blamed you, partly at least, for his re-election laws.
I think he said fully.
I think fully. You're right. I'm trying to put help you out there a little.
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And I've had very good relationships with presidents.